Welcome to the M.O.V.E podcast, number 1. In this podcast episode, we're going to talk about the price of going into the unknown. Now, while I do this podcast episode, I'm going to try to slow down my speech every once in a while. Not all the whole time, but every once in a while, I'll slow down. Every few minutes, I'll slow down the speech so that you can hear what I'm saying clearly. Not concisely. I'm not sure very clear and concise because there's a huge discussed gambit about that, which I could always get to in another episode of this podcast or another video, in that matter. But just enough. If I don't have to say clear and concise, which will traumatize me anyways, I'll just say that I'll slow down nonetheless to help you understand me, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Well, huge dilemma gambit with that, but yeah, I'll try to slow down once in a while. But yeah, the price of going to the unknown. So, there's a huge thing about like how you go about things are subjective, objective. There's a good video or two that goes on about explaining objective and subjective, made by this anime creator on YouTube. I think his alt channel is Hiding in Public, and you can watch the objective and subjective. If I link it in this mid card somewhere over here, or if I link it later on the end card, yeah. Objective and subjective honestly waver a lot of people whether you should give advice or be responsible for giving advice, or whether you should say anything that's exactly in facts or logic, or if it just be rhetorical. Because I mean subjective as in not necessarily one size fits all personality kind of thing, while for others, etc., etc. So the objective and subjective gets a little bit about that, and then also the negativity you get from new environments instead of being familiar with your certain environments that's comfortable. The balancing act between those two, or if you should go cold turkey in one direction or the other, as well as actually knowing if you're going to need a balancing act, or if moderation is a lie, or if moderation is the truth, or facts and truth and opinion, and then so forth. And the last thing I want to mention is that honestly, in general, I'm probably going to go over the midpoint about that, where I talked about the negative influences from two made different environments for the most part, because that's what mostly happens with the price of going to the unknown, is that when you go too far into like doing different environments, you're not, the familiarity can be a comfort curse. That's the idea of it being moderation being a lie. But hold on. When you are too familiar and you're too comfortable with your surroundings that you do over and over again, that can be its own curse. It doesn't have to be that way, but unfortunately, especially I hate hearing people say the word abuse and saying that things can be abused and not being in moderation. Especially as I don't agree with that perspective too much, there is still truth to it. And so, I'm not making a lot of sense here because I'm going a lot of abstract tangents. I don't like to say that I'm going on tangents because I still think I have a very good linear, not even linear. I don't even like the word linear either, but I have a lot of logics that work for me, but they don't have to work for everyone else. AKA subjective, hence the objective and subjective point from the High in Public anime creator video. But again, I'll link that in the middle if I remember to. But I think my logic's pretty clear to me. I mean, it doesn't have to only be clear to me, but there's or concise. The cringe words now, okay, but not even cringe be its own cringe word. But to have been able to know that what I'm thinking through is actually something that actually makes sense to perhaps other people. In that example, perhaps to other people it makes sense to. What I'm saying is that, yeah, you're not going to always have a good interference with just knowing that you are only in every single lost, chaotic environment that helps you look for truths and answers, but also allows you not to be relatable to anyone else. Now, the big thing about relatability and uniqueness, I think both are good for their own reasons and bad for their own reasons. That can also be seen as subjective, but I can't stand when people say that you're not alone, or that's supposed to have good intentions to it, but like that you're not alone, or that you haven't gone through something all by yourself uniquely, or that there are people going through worse things than you, or even that you just or that uniqueness is an illness or a curse. And all four of those ideals can be dishonest in their own ways. I still think of uniqueness and relatability being good for their own reasons, bad for their own reasons. I don't think of uniqueness as being a curse. And I also don't think of it of relatability as being a good enough answer or even helpful or safe for someone else's case just to make them feel better. Sometimes it doesn't even have to even be a good thing. And what I mean by that is that relatability is often used as its own excuse, not just uniqueness. It's like maybe thinking that being on the spectrum can be an excuse, or being in an advantage personality or an advantage sense of enlightenment or knowledge, insight, etc. All those things that make up who we are, if they do, up for debate. But it doesn't, for me, it never really helped to hear that being relatable is a good thing. It's supposed to be, but the way people use that half the time tends to be very dishonest and disturbing sometimes. Even when they say that you're not alone or that you haven't gone through the worst things that people, then it can be relative for that reason. I mean, anyone could everyone has their own tragedy for what it's worth, even their own struggles. But it just, if that has to be so like that. But long story. But it just never occurred to me that could only be a good thing, because I never saw it that way myself. So I always heard relatability. I've always had a bad experience with relatability, because even if I want to be relatable to people, and people get mixed up about this all the time. There are a lot of traumas and disgust and confusions about people thinking that you have to be different or you have to be relatable. They get confused about this a lot. I'm honestly projecting this from people in my family and friend circles that have pissed me off about this in the past. But however personal private this needs to be, because I'm going to continue to make private personal content. I don't care if it's personal private about me. And people who think that I'm the one who's not being private personal enough or being introverted, that will also grind my gears. I'm just saying that I have to be clear. It doesn't occur to me that these people who say that I'm not trying to be personal enough or not being too personal, contradictively speaking, in that same light. And not that I've never been a hypocrite for myself, but there's a lot of things that grind my gears. I could honestly talk about them on the podcast, but just. So as you can see, for the past 6 minutes, I've been talking about things off on abstract cycles, not circles or tangents. I don't want to say it like that, but maybe I already did. These abstract thoughts and all these interferences with the unknown, that is the price I have indeed paid for going to the unknown. I might even continue to talk about this in other podcast episodes, unfortunately. I haven't even slowed down yet, my speech. But to tell you the truth, I think I do not regret going to the unknown. It helped me find so many truths and insights I would never want to live without. Maybe that's because I already experienced them, because experiences betray the instances, as I said before, many times before, that experiences do indeed betray the instances. If I had to say it one more time, slowing down, experiences betray the instances. And I think I turned my head for that one, cocked it to the side. Felt that the visuals on, you won't have seen that on the webcam, but because I'm doing a voiceover. But I paid quite the price for being into the unknown. I don't regret it. I got answers I needed and even desired, and even though it put me, it distanced me from people that I expected to, and sometimes people who tell me that they're relatable to me, that we're not too different, they will distance themselves on accident from me in ways I would do to them or other people, or to other people. Sorry about that. They'll distance themselves from me in ways I will never even do to anyone else. And it's a weird thing to experience, but that's just happened before. And I think what I gotta say about that is that, yeah, I know that everyone makes mistakes, but Jesus, man, if I do everything for a reason and I don't even know what's going on, then, which is very relevant to this podcast episode, knowing what I'm doing, but not what's happening. Because that's the price I've paid. It's a worthy sacrifice and relevancy to me. I think people think that I have regrets. I really don't. But what's more is that I don't even know what's happening, so I'm still lost in the chaos, and it still sucks. It's not a regret, but it still sucks to be like that. And I want to get that off my chest, whether it's private or personal. I don't care who says that me being too private or personal, or being a coward or hiding from things or people, or contradictions, hypocrisies they'll come up with, other weird chaoses that aren't really more chaotic than me apparently, or more mysterious than me, whatnot. I really do care about everything, even though I tend to say I don't care about certain things as a kind of a joke, whether I mean it or not. But I have paid a price, and I do say a lot of abstract things with no conclusion to be drawn from them. But I'm pretty sure you guys can draw your own conclusions anyways. I'm glad to be that voice that could help you serve in that fashion. But the price I paid is that, if I had to give you one solid example about the price I paid for being the unknown, I sacrificed my peace of mind, I guess you could say. I'm supposed to have that in the long run, but I don't value peace I don't prioritize peace. I don't prioritize independence. I don't prioritize privacy. And I certainly don't obviously I don't prioritize responsibility, even though I'm supposed to have that. And I to a controversial extent, I don't prioritize respect. That's big, that's deeper, but I'm supposed to have responsibility and peace of mind anyways, but just for the record, or even depends on matter. But yeah, I hope my recording is still going. I think it still is. It just the screen blacked out for a second because I didn't touch the mouse for a while. We'll just see if this still keeps going. Yeah. I think it's still running. Okay, good. So yeah, we're good. Okay, so I think I just didn't understand the world as much as I could have because I was experimenting too much and I was trying too many things at once, too many new environments and experience at once at the same time. I never gave myself the chance to actually have fun whether I valued it or not, to actually like know what things are like, and being relatable in a popular and good way where I don't have to lose certain context that I would need later, until I complain about them later while I talk about fundamental context and emotional context. People who still think that I grown up to this point being naive without enough experience. It's a long story, but it's basically that it's okay to be naive at any age as long as you still have your own experiences to learn from or something like that. However debatable that can be, but when the people will say people tend to have standards for any age, no matter. That's the weirdest thing about ageism, is that not only is it underrated, but you have about people who will tell you that there's a limit, but they'll never tell you when the cap should actually be, or whether 20s is new 30s or whatever. That's another story about ageism, but sort of like ageism, but you know, having these things where these disgusting perspectives about teenagers and all the older senior citizens and all that. And ageism can be about any age also. That's the one thing you need to get across, if I could get that across to you, is that I think that ageism can be about any age, not just the elders or the children, but anything in between as well. And even people who aren't born yet or already dead, that could be ageist too. But you know, I just, as I'm alive now saying this, but I'm at 24 years of age, but you know, I just but those are me going to the unknowns, like literally like not having to have too much stretchy room to express myself, and still being lost and wondering how many social circles I needed back from my life, because I still complain about the social thing a lot. I always try to find my people. I always try to find peace with my mind, with my own self-love and all that, and I do that at the same time. I do self-love even before I try to find those people in social circles, but which is supposed to be like done that way as a matter of fact. But you know, last thing I'll close off with, I'll make this a little bit short because I was expecting to go for 44 minutes, but I'm not talking as much as I needed to for that matter. Not that I'd have to do that, but I could keep talking, but just but what I can leave off with is that when you go into the unknown, you do find answers to things, because time will give you those answers over time whether you look for them or not, is my understanding of it. And there are also times when you I say this a lot, where time only hides what it can't contemplate. And I also tend to say that I said this in a previous episode of documentaries, where it was like your reasoning is not unique to yourself or something like that, even if everything doesn't happen for a reason or something like that. But it was it's very unique, it's philosophical material there. But you know, going to the unknown is a very scary thing, and it's even scary for me to do that, even after all the times I've done before, because I had nothing compared to, because I never tried to do the similar things as often, so I had nothing compared to. But even more than that, it's scary in general just to do that. It's scary to actually go into the unknown looking for answers when you could just relax in the meantime. I knew that would have been worth it. I already did. I'm not particularly stupid. I don't think I'm stupid at all, but I really doubt that. I know I'm a smart person, but I don't see intelligence the way other people do. I don't think of intelligence being as a lame excuse to tell people how to behave or whatever. That organizes my gears, honesty. But the unknown is a scary price to pay, because you really, even if I don't tend to believe in going to the unknown to avoid the peace in the meantime, because I know the peace in the meantime can be important, and it can even be happy to do that. I would, if that makes sense. I would know that better for working that out, but to balance, if I had to balance like those things, subjective, objective, or discuss falsities or whatever. But you know, that's just how I would see it. I don't think of, when I had to think about avoiding the unknown just to live in the moment, that can be certainly peaceful. I've probably tried that before many times before, as I've done lately now. To have a balancing act between the moments where you can just live in the moment, also while looking towards the future. I like that, where you can also go into the unknown looking for answers, discovering, exploring, being curious, while also living in the moment to all the same, so that you can figure out what makes you happy and peaceful, even if you're still a brilliant person who knows facts or even insights that no one else seems to possess until they do. Thank you very much, guys. Move podcast, everyone. Bye.